Well, hey everyone, in this video we are going to be interacting with the idea of ritual and the good and the bad of that and how that fits into the Christian life.
Yes.
Ritual can be mindless, empty, and meaningless.
Yeah, because you get into practice.
It's just done by rote. You just do it, right?
Yeah.
But every night raising him up, I would put him to bed with a Bible story, a prayer, a memory verse, and we'd sing Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. That was a ritual. We did it every day. Ritual can be good when we are reminding ourselves of the basic fundamental truths about God and Christ. Ritual can also be important when you pray before meals as a way to grow your faith, as a way to remind yourself of what is significant.
Yeah, I love this video, and I love what he talks about here. You know, so I'm 45, and so I feel like there's a generational thing that sometimes happens with how we as Christians are interacting with the idea of ritual, especially as more Protestant Christians. So when I was growing up and when I was sort of coming of age, there was a lot of talk of, we have too much ritual and sort of we can push back against these rituals and we don't need them. Even though the church I had grown up in was sort of low church, still the idea of like, wait, we don't need a building to worship God and we don't need to say things in this way and you can say it however you want. And I think that there was a lot that was good about that. One of the interesting things is that, and this happened a little bit with Gen X, but really happened more with millennials and with Gen Z, was just the idea of suddenly this craving for rituals and even a return for many to high church and the idea that there was this craving for something like that in the life of the church. I think that there is something about the way that God has made us that we're drawn towards rituals and habits and practices like that in all sorts of ways in our lives. If you just think about your life, you do all sorts of rituals every day. You probably have a ritual with how you brush your teeth. If you drink coffee, you probably have certain rituals surrounding like how you drink coffee. If you're married, maybe you have rituals as far as date night. He gave the example in the video of putting kids to bed. We've had that. We've had rituals with putting kids to bed. So we naturally do this. And it's weird because I think that there's a part of us that we think, man, it would be so amazing just to sort of enter into each moment with complete freedom about how we're going to approach that. And in the end, that also becomes sort of stifling and maybe even paralyzing, the idea that every day I've got to think about how I'm going to brush my teeth and am I going to have coffee or am I not, and what time am I going to work out, and am I going to go to the gym, and am I going to meet up with this friend. We frequently, for most of us, we set up rituals. We're like, once a week at this time I do this, because there's something about order to our lives that really helps us. I think especially as believers, the difficult thing about ritual is that ritual is not a replacement for the heart connection and heart affections toward God. But ritual can be an incredibly useful vehicle to help point our hearts in the right direction. I love taking communion. I love when we take communion. The church I grew up in, I don't know how frequently we did it. It seemed not very frequent. For most of the churches that I was a part of, it was not very frequent. At our church, we do it once a month. Frankly, I'd love it if we were doing it even more than that. And I remember talking to a friend one time who started to attend services at a church where they did it every week. And he said going in, he was afraid that this would just become routine, just sort of rote. We do this every week. We go through the motions. He was concerned that it wouldn't be special. And what he said happened was every week, he got pointed back towards the remembrance of Jesus and his sacrifice for us, because Jesus gave us this ritual to do, not to replace the heart, but to direct our hearts in the direction that we want them to be. So I think when it comes to our personal lives, our family lives, our habits, our church lives, what we need to consistently do is we need to make use of healthy rituals, but consistently remind ourselves and remind others of the heart behind them.